So last night we land in the Gold Coast and we get in the Uber and I get into the front seat and I have my backpack with me and there's not enough room in the front seat. So I turn around and I hand it into the back seat and I say, "Hey Cam, can you hold this?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And so then we're driving from the airport to the house that my friend has gotten for us to stay in. And when we arrive, we are kind of having a hard time finding it. It's raining, so it's just a little bit chaotic. And we get out in the rain and we're moving really fast and we grab our stuff, we go into the apartment and we meet my friend Angel. We have lovely conversations, wonderful food that she's prepared for us. And it's about 2+ hours later when we're starting to get ready for bed that I'm like, okay, let me find my backpack and get some stuff. Nowhere to be found. Search high and low, cannot find the backpack. At this point, Cam's asleep, so I wake him up and I'm like, "Hey, do you remember grabbing the backpack out of the Uber when you got out of it?" And he's half asleep, just like, "No, I don't remember, man. I don't remember. Sorry." And he like goes back to sleep with his earplugs and his eye mask. And it's very clear at that point that he has completely left my backpack in the Uber, and that backpack has my laptop with months and months of work in it, and it has my passport, it has my journal, it has everything in there. And I start to have, a stress response. I start to go down this mental mapping of what happens if I don't get any of that stuff back. And so I know that I first try and call through the Uber app and get a hold of her. I leave a message, no response. I know that there's nothing that I can do in this moment. Like at 12:30 at night, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to change that backpack being here. So the thing I would like to do is get a really good night's sleep and feel rested for the next day, because there's tons of stuff to do the next day regardless. What ends up happening is I spend the next 2 hours meditating, and because I can't fall asleep because of the stress that's happening in my system. And I am staying in a centered space of visualizing getting that backpack back, feeling into that and feeling so good about it. And then my brain would all of a sudden go, well, what if this happened? What if you never got it back? And then I'd say, wait, hold on, recenter. Well, what would happen if you don't even get out of this country? You don't have a passport, just crazy thoughts. Recenter. Because I believe that where our attention goes, energy will flow. And so if I am focused on worst case scenarios, I am entraining myself into a frequency of that reality. And I also believe that if I just envision and hold in my body the frequency of the reality I want to be living, it is that much more likely that I will be living it. And in order for my backpack to be gone, the Uber driver and whoever she picked up next would have had to both, at some point, one or both of them said, "I'm going to steal this," instead of, "I'm going to give this back to the owner." And I don't want to believe that that's more likely than a reality in which it's returned. And so I think this is a really important story to share, because the next morning, couldn't sleep in, woke up super early, was still feeling things, and so I started stretching. I started moving the energy through my body physically. And an hour later, the backpack's returned to me. Everything is fine, everything's in it, I feel so good. And I got a really important lesson of being reminded that while I may be able to hold the belief like I can do anything, we can create any reality collectively that we want, peace on earth is possible, there are some people who just the idea of leaving their abusive relationship, just the idea of quitting their job is as hard to hold the idea, I can leave this relationship, I am worthy of love at a higher level. Like, that idea is just as hard for them to hold and spiral, and not spiral into worst case scenarios. And on this tour, I want to continue to remind people that they're not alone. Like, that's what this is. This is me saying, you're not alone. I go through it too, 100%. And the only difference really is in those moments, remaining committed to recentering, using your tools, staying true to what you believe, and just finding back to yourself. And if we can do that just consistently over and over and over, it will get easier, and collectively it will get easier. And before you know it, we'll look around and barely recognize the paradise that we're all living in relative to where we were maybe 10 years, 2 years earlier. So I hope this was helpful for you as a reminder that we're all in this together, and that you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved.